I really liken the Lehman Brothers collapse in '08 to what happened with FTX in terms of each industry. From the ruins, we saw Dodd-Frank emerge in the banking markets. I think something like that will come across. And I think, again, you're going to see this coincide perfectly with that regulation being unveiled. It's going to be, this is what's exciting for me is that, to me, I finally see the end of the bear market. Doesn't mean we're going to roar back to all-time highs, but at least it's getting closer.
Popular technical analyst Gareth Soloway has given his updated outlook for the cryptocurrency markets in 2023. In a recent interview with the Barron Networks, Soloway explains that Bitcoin and the rest of the cryptocurrency markets will perform much better in 2023, especially after the first few months of the year. According to the veteran trader and analyst, next year will mark the end of the bear market for the world's largest cryptocurrency, and by extension, the overall crypto market. Soloway sees some positive news coming from the ruins of the FTX collapse, especially some regulation for the industry. He explains that many institutional investors will continue to stay on the sidelines until there is a hint that the industry will gain much-needed regulation. When that happens, the technical analyst believes these big money investors will come on board and possibly spur the beginning of the next crypto bull market. In addition to the possibility of crypto regulation, Soloway believes the macro environment will be more suitable for crypto assets in 2023. He explains that the Federal Reserve is currently trying to make up for insisting that inflation was transitory. But at some point in early 2023, when the economy begins to show severe signs of recession, the Federal Reserve will realize the heavy strain on the economy and put a hold on its aggressive rate hike campaign. Whatever happens, Soloway believes Bitcoin and other crypto assets will perform better next year. However, the technical analyst does not rule out certain dynamics such as problems with the Grayscale Bitcoin Trust or the creation of the digital dollar that could negatively impact the cryptocurrency markets. Before we listen to Gareth Soloway, please take a little time to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. Also, be sure you drop your comments and observations in the comments section below. Everything helps with the YouTube algorithm and contributes immensely to the channel's growth. Thanks and enjoy the video.
So there's no doubt that Bitcoin is still struggling. And I think the biggest example of how Bitcoin is struggling right now is you obviously saw the collapse on the back of FTX. And then since then, the stock market until really the last week or so had been trending neutral to higher. And we didn't see that in the Bitcoin chart. Even though the Bitcoin chart usually follows risk assets like the stock market, we weren't seeing that. And that makes a lot of sense. Investors are nervous. They don't know what to believe, what not to believe in the crypto markets these days after FTX really threw a big curveball. And so I think for me, it's continuing to recognize the chart that we're in a downtrend. You can clearly see that, again, this is now another bearish pattern developing, and we probably have further downside. Again, I think we'll stop around, there'll be a big level around 12 to 13,000, but it wouldn't shock me to see us go down to 9,000 on the charts at this point. So I continue to be bearish in early 2023. I will say this, is that I expect Bitcoin to put in a bottom probably around mid-year, probably around $9,000. And I think finally it will coordinate with the next kind of bounce, although the bull market will take years to develop. The Grayscale situation is really a very important factor for Bitcoin. I think they're the biggest holder of Bitcoin.
Yes.
So if they went into bankruptcy, if they don't get the ability to switch it into an ETF and therefore are forced into this path, you would see a major dip. And it's one of those scenarios where for me, I'd probably put out a buy order and go to sleep on Bitcoin at like $3,000. I mean, it could be one of those scenarios where you see something like that occur.
Yeah.
The crazy thing about it is that if the government really wanted to get rid or really put roadblocks in crypto or in Bitcoin specifically, this would be one way they could do it. They could deny the Grayscale conversion to an ETF. And by doing that, you're going to create some very hazardous periods. And again, remember, crypto's already like a wounded animal, right? I mean, it's already gotten some wounds. It's struggling. FTX didn't do us any favors here. If you wanted to put that nail in the coffin, that would be one way to do it. Let's hope that's not their intention.
So let's take a look at Ethereum. And if you think Ethereum is still kind of lockstep with what Bitcoin is doing, how does this play out for Ethereum in the next few months?
Yeah, so I think for the most part, it is lockstep. I mean, not to the exact penny, obviously. We do see generally Ethereum behave slightly different. I think the positive thing for Ethereum is that you have the low going back to June over here. And we have yet to take that low out versus what you've seen on Bitcoin. So you could argue that Ethereum is behaving a little bit stronger. But for me, everything comes back to if Bitcoin's going to go down to 12 or 9,000, it's hard to imagine a scenario where at least Ethereum doesn't decline somewhat, right? I mean, you got to figure that they're somewhat correlated. Having said that, I also think that investors should be welcoming and encouraging the regulation. We need to get this regulation. If you want to bottom in Bitcoin, if you want these assets to start to trade up, you have to get clarity in the sector. You have to know what these exchanges are doing with your assets that you're putting on the exchanges, and obviously, that there's no shenanigans going on, and no big money is going to come in this sector at this stage. I mean, that's the biggest negative here, is that to attract new big money is almost impossible now that FTX blew up. Right.
So what are your thoughts on whale movement in the waters in 23?
Yeah, so I think the whales do start nibbling. I think the key is to see some sort of framework. In fact, and again, I'm no whale by any stretch, but I have a small investment of my overall net worth in Bitcoin, a tiny bit in Ethereum as well. And the reason why I'm not ready to go in more right now is I want to know that we have some regulatory framework coming. And I think as soon as we get a hint of it, remember, the market and whales aren't going to wait for it to pass. They're not going to wait for it to become law. It's going to be the framework that we look at, and we can say, okay, this is what's going to most likely come to fruition, and then we're going to start to buy and accumulate. And that's really what I'm waiting for. But I think it does happen in 2023. I really liken the Lehman Brothers collapse in 2008 to what happened with FTX in terms of each industry. From the ruins, we saw Dodd-Frank emerge in the banking markets. I think something like that will come across. And I also think you can look at the Lehman Brothers collapse and say, okay, how long did it take for investors to psychologically flush down before a bottom was made in the S&P 500? And that was about 5 to 6 months. In addition, the S&P dropped about 45%. So if you look at when FTX occurred versus when Lehman, you go out 5 to 6 months and you drop Bitcoin down about 45%, which puts us give or take around that $10,000 level. And that might give us a basis to kind of get involved as a long investor. And I think, again, you're going to see this coincide perfectly with that regulation being unveiled. What's exciting for me is that, to me, I finally see the end of the bear market. Doesn't mean we're going to roar back to all-time highs, but at least it's getting closer.
Despite his bullish prediction for Bitcoin in the other half of 2023, Soloway maintains his earlier prediction that Bitcoin will bottom around $10,000 or $9,000. He adds that Bitcoin prices are currently low, but investors are still very interested in purchasing the asset. According to Soloway, this proves that the bottom is still a few months away. According to reports from Cointelegraph, Blockchain.com recently surveyed cryptocurrency investors to assess consumer sentiments in the bear market. The survey polled over 40,000 respondents globally between November 28 and December 9, 40% of which stated that they plan to buy crypto assets in 2023. Soloway believes surveys like this only prove his earlier prediction that Bitcoin and the rest of the cryptocurrency markets need to go a leg lower. When the bottom finally appears sometime in 2023, Soloway adds that only whales will be stacking up more crypto assets. Let's get back to Soloway's interview as he discusses his outlook on Polygon stablecoins and the digital dollar in 2023.
And Matic, again, has the positive to this chart is that you're well off of the lows from earlier in 2022. So there's not many coins that you can look at that are up still over 100% off of their lows in 2022. Having said that, what's a little concerning, you have this upsloping white trend line that is now it's trying to break to the downside. If it does, you have 70% support and then finally down to about 61 cent support. But again, the hope if you're a bull is you want to see price get back above this white trend line and hold there. And you can see that every time you hit this line, you are getting a bounce off of it. So again, it tells us that it's a significant level. Yeah, so for me, it's just watching that trend line. So right now we are a tad below, but we haven't confirmed the move yet. So for me, it would just be watching. If it confirms, then you have to have a slight negative bias, at least until about 70 cents. Now listen, it's at 78 cents, so it's not that far of a move. But in the short term, any sort of confirmation below this trend line, which is around 79, 80 cents, that would be problematic in the near term for Matic. For me, the biggest thing with stablecoins is the the digital dollar if the Fed goes ahead with that, right? And to me, that's a big concern. It's one of the reasons why I shy away from holding US Tether or USDC, is because of that aspect of what does it mean when the government creates essentially its own stable coin and processes, these transactions can be processed just the same. So I think for me, that is the biggest concern. And for me, it's saying, okay, we were talking about Ethereum, how it might have a leg down. And by the way, I agree with that. If the Ripple determination does not come out in the form that is good for Ripple, it would probably translate to all the altcoins in terms of them being classified as securities, right? So that would signal that you could see that leg down in Ethereum and some of the other altcoins. Going back to stablecoins, for me, again, it's a big concern of mine. We know that the US dollar, digital dollar, is coming, and I don't know how or what the regulatory impact will be on these stablecoins.
What are your thoughts on Gareth Soloway's prediction for Bitcoin, Ether, Polygon, and stablecoins in 2023? Please drop your comments and observations in the comments section below. Also, ensure you subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and turn on post notifications for more videos on the cryptocurrency market. Thanks for watching.